jump back over to here and kind of bring up a little bit on the data warehousing side first, sir, because I do know that's also an area that you have a lot of expertise and experience in. What we're seeing is kind of the time for these next generation data warehousing and big data management tools to really shine. In the past, that was all just Oracle, SAP, and then it was Microsoft and AWS. But what we're seeing more and more now is Google and Snowflake, and some of the younger offerings from AWS like Redshift and then Dynamo as well. But what we're seeing currently are a lot of movement off of the traditional data warehousing and database tools to more of these next gen. And given your experience, sir, I would love to talk to you a little bit about that, on how quickly that's happening and which vendors might be leading in that charge. I'm going to pull up this chart here, so some of these might be familiar to you. Obviously, Snowflake is showing no signs of slowing down, but also Google over the last year or so has been, pretty strong as well. I'd be curious, sir, your thoughts on this trend.
Yes, the definitely I believe that by the way, we are no exception. We actually are in the process of doing Snowflake project, okay. And so we are on that same bandwagon there. And a part of it is because the whole consumption-based modeling that seems that pretty reasonable for us, because the one of the initial fear of that you do the cloud-based data warehouse is the cost. And right. So certainly that is help us to address that issue. And then with I think the just overall the whole cloud migration certainly make the sort of the Snowflake type of the application more appealing, because it is cloud, is consumption based, and so it's a lot easier to work with. And so basically from the IT operation point of view, we don't need to worry about the infrastructure, that type of stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if I can kind of summarize there, Snowflake is doing as well as it is, not only because it helps with cost because of the consumption-based pricing model, exactly. It also ties into your overall cloud migration strategy. And quite simply, it's just easier to work with some of versus some of the older monolithic databases and data warehouses. Is that accurate?
Exactly. Although I don't necessarily want to say they are just the perfecting the easy to work with part, because I do have the first-hand experience from my team, and so they do struggle with some of the the data source integration for Snowflake. So that's the area they probably should be addressing.
Okay, while we're there, any particular pain point that maybe your peers would be interested in, or us as researchers should be aware of? I mean, Snowflake seems to be priced to perfection. Everyone's expecting massive growth, so hearing any pain point is quite interesting.
Yeah. So I think that the one of the feedback I got was just the if they be able to connect to the Salesforce. You imagine that the Salesforce is like a most popular the CRM system there, but apparently they are struggling is getting the data they loading to the Snowflake quickly. So I guess the part of it I was told that there is the product out there, but then of course that's additional investment. So if there's if you don't use that product, then of course there's a bit work there to get the data over the hump.
Okay, that's fantastic, and it's almost reasonable, right? When you're relatively new, I mean relatively, they've been around for a little while, but yeah, those connectors aren't easy to come by, and that takes some time. But to your point, Salesforce is about as big of an enterprise application as you're going to get. So yeah, that's one that they should probably connect to. That's a great segue into the next part I want to talk about in enterprise apps. But if you don't mind, sir, I would love to just get your opinion as well. Obviously, Snowflake is doing really great, but Google has been really ticking up for us as well on our data. And there's things like BigQuery, and also Google has just really been jumping in our machine learning and AI categories as well. And usually you don't think of Google as a large enterprise solution, but that seems to be changing. I would love your thoughts on that, if possible.
I actually do not have a first-hand experience with
Okay.
the big data there, the BigQuery. But I do know that our marketing department, at one point they were looking at that. And personally, actually, it's one of the my area of the sort of the initiative is to see how we can leverage the AI technology in our data, right? So because the first thing is that we get an infrastructure ready and get the Snowflake, everything, but then the next thing is that how can we produce the more the insight on the data? So it's definitely that the AI is something that on the roadmap.
Excellent. I really do appreciate it. And I also want to call out to you and all of our listeners out there. The visualization we're looking right now is for the current October 20 survey. It's not even halfway done. So when you see big changes like this, as you can tell, that's only 30 citations. I'm not exactly sure if IBM Watson is going to finish with that sort of growth.
Yeah.
But you know, for Google, however, it is pretty consistent and steady. They have been leading in the space for the last few surveys. So it's just quite interesting to me, a trend to watch for that name. And what I'm going to do now, sir, is kind of go to your direct area of report and expertise, which is the enterprise applications. And for the listeners out there, the backdrop is when I asked earlier, the main priority still is cloud migration. This is a very large company that's been around for a long time, has grown through acquisition, and we all know that that leads to some difficulties when trying to standardize on a shared services model and on enterprise. So this gentleman is actively trying to get his on-prem enterprise applications onto the cloud. So let's talk about how that's going and some of the vendors that are doing well with it. We'll start with the big three, as we call them, and that is ServiceNow, Workday, and Salesforce. Obviously, the largest SaaS players out there. And you had already mentioned you have Salesforce because you said Snowflake was having trouble connecting to it.
Correct.
So so let's talk a little bit about Salesforce. How is that working for an enterprise your size? Do you see your spending flat with them? Is your spend going to increase with them? General thoughts on the vendor, sir.
Yes, we actually have been using Salesforce as our CRM platform for, I would say, probably the close to 10 years now. And but we are actually adding more application portfolio on that platform. And for example, we are currently working on the Service Cloud project. And so then obviously we also, our marketing is adding additional third-party apps on the Service Cloud, on the Salesforce platform. And then the next thing we're going to look at is the Einstein, right? So again, these analytics piece, and then so the AI piece, we'll just try to leverage that as much as possible. And so there's no slowdown on the Salesforce side of it.
Well, that's great. Let's get into that because we actually track them in most of those areas you talked about. So when you see in cloud computing, Salesforce again is there. It has grown quite well. We just showed the ML AI a second ago, but also you mentioned your marketing department, and they are absolutely leading in that area. So they are really growing. I also know we did a panel on the customer experience management space, and Salesforce is actually actively going into that as well, against companies like a Qualtrics or a Medallia. So it's very interesting. It sounds to me, sir, that Salesforce is growing. They came in as a CRM, but their land and expand strategy is working. So you would expect maybe your spend to increase overall across the enterprise?
Yes, yeah. So basically last year we complete a CPQ project, essentially, and also the Salesforce billing. So you can imagine it is Salesforce is changing from just a CRM platform for us to the part of the ERP now. And so now, of course, we are adding Service Cloud. So that just the footprint of the Salesforce in our company is just getting bigger and bigger.
I appreciate that. And one last question on this name, because, sir, you're also in charge of the business intelligence for your company. And as we know, Salesforce went out and acquired Tableau. I have seen, for some reason, the data actually not being as strong over the course of the last year. We will see where this ends up when all the data gets pulled in. But from your perspective, sir, how was that acquisition greeted by you as an end user? Is Tableau being used in your organization? Are you using Power BI or one of the
yeah,
other?
correct. Yeah. That's probably the one area we currently do not have a strong appetite for it, because we have been on the Power BI platform for our the AI solution. I mean the BI solution.
Okay, wonderful. So they're doing great in their land and expand, but maybe this particular acquisition is not resonating with you.
Yeah. Part of it is also the reason we are not looking at that is that you got to think of this way, right? So the Tableau of the Salesforce is reporting for the Salesforce data, but then we have data from other applications as well. So we need to have a true enterprise the BI solution. So that's why we wanted to take the data outside of the Salesforce and getting data from other applications and putting to this data warehouse, whether it's a Snowflake or it's the the building in some other application, the database, and then we use the reporting platform like a Power BI sit on top of it. So that would truly give us a platform to do the the enterprise reporting, customer 360, from marketing all the way to support to finance.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that distinction. I do appreciate it.